All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our final Entrepreneur Speaker Series for 2025. My name is Jennifer Hood. I'm a business consultant with the Missouri SBDC here at Missouri Southern. So I'd love to just give you a little bit of information about what we do here at the SBDC. So our mission is simple. It's really to help small business owners and entrepreneurs start, grow, and succeed in their business journey. And we do this by offering no-cost consulting services. In addition to that, we do also offer no-cost to low-cost trainings, can also assist with different resources to really help you grow and thrive in your business. The SBDC is partially grant funded by the Small Business Administration. In addition to that, our grant is matched by our host institution here at Missouri Southern State Institution. So their kindness in helping with that does allow us to assist our clients throughout 8 counties here in Southwest Missouri. So I'd also love to give you short bios for Andrew and Emma today. So Andrew Jordan is CPA and co-owner of Jordan CPA Services. He specializes in tax planning, bookkeeping, fractional CFO services for growing businesses. He regularly speaks on topics like tax strategy, corporate governance, and the role of AI in accounting. And Andrew was named one of Joplin Business Journal's 15 under 40 and is a graduate of the AICPA Leadership Academy. Outside of work, he's a proud husband to Sarah and dad to 3 wonderful kids, Evelyn, Theo, and Lillian, who inspire and energize him every day. Also, I'd like to welcome Emma Ball. Emma Ball is the Chief Operations Officer at Jordan CPA Services and a 40 under 40 honoree by the Joplin Business Journal. With a background that spans both corporate and small business roles, she leads with creativity, clarity, and a heart for people. Also, she's the founder of the Hip Handmade Market, a beloved local craft fair, and speaks regularly on topics like small business taxes, project management, and personal growth. Emma is also a proud mom to Douglas and Isabella, a role that grounds and inspires everything she does. So everyone, please help me in welcoming Andrew Jordan and Emma Ball.
Thank you to Missouri Southern for having us, and thank you to all of you for attending. I want to start out by just clarifying none of those topics we normally speak on that she just read, like tax planning, are things we're going to talk about today, so you don't have to worry. I didn't realize we were going to be the closing speakers for this series, but they saved the accountants for the last. I don't know. That might not have been a great idea. We are not professional speakers, but we are excited to talk about our journey as entrepreneurs. As the introduction said, I am Andrew Jordan. I am a CPA and I'm president at Jordan CPA Services.
And I'm Emma Ball. I'm COO and co-owner of Jordan CPA Services.
So our firm is a CPA firm, and it's a little non-traditional. Most of our clients aren't in this area, and most of our employees aren't either. We're a remote firm primarily. We have 2 parts to our vision statement as a company, 2 reasons why we exist. The first is we want to be the best place to work for good professionals, and the second is we want to provide good quality but affordable accounting, tax, and advisory services for small businesses. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk to you about our journey. So my path to becoming an entrepreneur wasn't a straight one. It wasn't actually something I set out to do. So this isn't going to be like a normal lecture.
We're not good at lectures, at least not in this setting, so that's part of why.
But we are good about telling our story and telling about the truth about entrepreneurship.
So instead of like a straightforward presentation, this is our story. It's going to include some really good stuff and some unexpected weird stuff, like there's like a criminal investigation, people go to jail.
So
yeah.
I always knew that I wanted to be an accountant.
And I absolutely did not.
But somehow it works, and honestly, that's kind of the point.
And so when you're building something, you want to find people that balance you out, that maybe don't have the same skills as you, even if they drive you a little bit crazy.
Because growth is sometimes painful, but that's usually where the good stuff happens.
So we're going to tell you about how 2 very different paths ended up crossing at exactly the right time.
So I'm going to start with my story.
He's a baby.
The photos from a little while ago. But, I started out, I went to Missouri State, I got my undergraduate and my master's degree in accounting. And I thought I had my path all set. A year and a half before graduation, I signed an agreement to start after graduation with BKD, now Forbes. So the big dog, the 200-person CPA firm, 200 people in Springfield. And I was so excited. I actually threw a dinner party with my wife, like with the other people in my start group, because we were all going to make partner together. And of those 10 people, one of them is still there, but she was a partner, so there's that. But I didn't want to be an entrepreneur, that wasn't anything I set out to do. I wanted to be a partner in this established firm. And things seemed like they went pretty well. I passed my CPA exam on the first time, I graduated, I did an internship during my master's year and that went pretty well. And then after my first full tax season working there full time, and this was like minimum 60-hour weeks, I hit 80 hours 1 week, it was a lot. But I feel like I did a pretty good job. I was feeling pretty good until April 16th, when I was called into the managing partner's office with no notice, and he said, hey, we're firing you. You have 30 minutes to gather all your stuff. I was blindsided because I know I was gonna be a partner here, right? And everything seemed like it was going well. I'd never done a negative review. I had no concept of what was happening. Now I say this in part because you guys are young. You maybe haven't had something like this happen to you yet, but it will. And I hate that for you, but it's going to. And I hope that when it does, you will remember me or other people who will tell you the same thing, that you will have really bad things happen that will make you feel like you don't know how to go on. And you'll go on and you'll be fine. And you'll eventually be, stronger because of it. And it's not just like a trick thing that is how it is in the long run, just not in the short term. Because I had that 30 minutes to gather all my stuff, I was cut off from all my friends at work, and I then had it was like at noon, so I had like 4 hours to figure out how I was gonna explain to my wife when she got home from her teaching job that I didn't have a job anymore. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I decided that maybe a big firm wasn't for me. I eventually figured out what happened is big firms often will overhire during tax season, and on April 16th, they'll let a group of people go. And I also figured out I was pretty naive. You see the picture, right? The guy's pretty naive and didn't understand that there was office politics going on and kind of ran afoul of those. So that's why my name was one of the ones I hear that on the list. And so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try a small CPA firm. So I went to a small CPA firm in Springfield, and I also hated it. If anything, I maybe hated it more. And so at this point, after being there a year or so, I'm thinking, maybe I'm not cut out to be a CPA. Maybe I need to go to law school. Maybe I need to do something totally different. Fortunately for me, so we were living in Springfield at the time, and I don't know if any of you ever feel this way, but growing up in Joplin, my one goal was to not end up living here. That's still relatable. It was when I was in school. And we never thought we'd move back to the area, but there was this really cool CPA firm in Carthage that was hiring. And so I went there, and they were really progressive. They did a lot of things most CPA firms did. CPA firms tend to be really, really traditional. And this one was like open book management, if you guys know that. So we knew how much everyone was making. It was really, really neat. Learned a lot there. I was there 3 or 4 years. And then I was recruited to be the CFO, the first ever CFO of a growing tech company. Now, age of the room, you guys maybe haven't heard of this company, but Innovative Objects or Pillar Technologies. The big gray building that's behind McAllister's, that's now Schuber Mitchell's headquarters, that was our building. We built that building. And we started with about 30 employees, and we grew to about 70 or so employees in the course of a couple years, which was really, really fast growth. I came in as CFO, fixed a bunch of stuff, helped through this growth, worked through our process of being bought by a private equity group. This was a native tribe-owned private equity group. And so we moved into that new building, and things were going really well. We had plenty of cash because we had this private equity group. We were growing, we were in this really great building. And then something started kind of happening that rained on the parade. So the equity group was interested in us because we had this $3.5 million contract to do custom development work for Walmart. So obviously that's a huge deal. It was going to be the first of many future deals as long as we didn't mess that one up. And it was because of that contract and the future growth that represented that the tribe was interested in buying us in the first place. So as the months started rolling along though, there was just another hoop to jump through for Walmart and another requirement to meet and another delay. And this spun out for like months and months. And eventually my technical team said to me, Andrew, some of these requirements, they don't like quite make sense. Like they seem really weird. So every time we talked with our CEO, our founder, my boss, about it, he always had a reason for it. You know, Walmart is giant. They're not like anyone we've ever worked with before. There's always a reason for it. But eventually, it was enough that even though I didn't have any evidence that something was wrong, like I had to say something. And I still remember this day because I said to my wife, I'm gonna go to my boss's boss with no evidence, and I'm gonna say, I think that guy that they regularly refer to as the goose who laid the golden egg, the guy who every 2 weeks goes to Bentonville, comes back, tells us about this meeting he had with his contact at Walmart, despite the fact that we have a written contract and all these emails and all this stuff, saying that the Walmart contract was real and right and good, and I have no evidence on the other side, I still have to say something. So I'm probably gonna come back without a job tonight, but I have to say something. And so I did. And again, I was fortunate because he listened. And he said, look, we need to not rock the boat because not only is the Walmart contract through him, but the Procter & Gamble deal that's coming and the Gulfstream deal that's coming for custom development for them, like, he's the only guy who has the contacts. We have to not let him get any wind of this. And so through this journey, there's been a lot of things that happen. The one part of it that I would never be willing to repeat is this next part, because I had to basically play double agent. I had to sit through the 30-minute debriefs every 2 weeks while this guy was telling me about his contact at Bentonville's golf game and how his granddaughter was doing better with her long-term sickness, and all of these details as I increasingly became convinced this is all fake. It was a wild thing and it was very stressful. I was 32 or so, early 30s. I had to actually have a stress test done because I had continual chest pains, which turns out if you have enough stress, you get sometimes continual stress pain that feels like a heart attack. That's not fun, you don't want to do that, but that's part of the fun of being a whistleblower. So I eventually got to talk about this whole experience to a national audience of CFOs for the American Institute of CPAs, which was kind of cathartic and really good. But the short story is like being a whistleblower doesn't work out well for the whistleblower. But it's still the right thing to do. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but it was tough. Eventually we confronted him and got some evidence proving that he was lying, proving that this thing wasn't real, and he confessed. So it felt like an open shut case, right? We confront him, there's a group of us, I still remember it in this conference room, people from the tribe were there, and he confessed, yep, I made it all up. I'm like, this is crazy, like this has been going on 18 months, what do you mean you made up all of this stuff? And he said, well, there was just so much pressure on me to keep performing and keep growing, I felt like I had to, it's the only way I could keep living up to other people's expectations. I said, okay, well, we'll figure out what to do. Thinking again that it was an open and shut case. FBI was involved by this point, so work with them, they were actually really cool to work with. But he then changed his mind, and he managed with his lawyers to stay free for another 2 or 3 years, during which I was told by the FBI I wasn't allowed to talk publicly about this, and he was able to say whatever he wanted to. And so he actually had several employees. He started spreading this story that this was all a ploy by the tribe to steal his company from him. And it was all made up and the fraud wasn't real and all this kind of thing. He's in jail for I think another 10 years with a $20 million restitution order, so justice eventually prevailed. It was real painful in the meantime. But there was an interesting part of the story that then led to, hey, we actually as a company are losing $250,000 a month. And we have no salesperson because he was our only salesperson. So the tribe said, Andrew, you're no longer CFO. Congratulations, you're president. Same pay, by the way, but you're now president. And we need you to fix this. And so I figured out how to do all this stuff. I figured out how to hire salespeople and manage them and do all these things. And I had an amazing team with me, so definitely couldn't have done it without them. But what we figured out, a year later, we were consistently in the black. Like, we turned this thing around in 12 months. We had our second or third consecutive month being just a little bit profitable. And this was then April of 2017. So April 2017, everything seemed like it was going really well. And then the tribe had a completely unrelated to us major settlement go against them with the federal government. It took away all of their cash, And so they, without notice, shut down half a dozen of their companies, all on the same day, right after tax day of 2017. It wasn't, I hope you guys get, like, that was not what this was supposed to be building toward, right? We finally got their fraud done, we finally got profitable, and then another left turn. But that's what happens when you're an entrepreneur, or honestly, even just in your career sometimes, these weird twists and turns take place. So, I think now is where I pause, and there's a couple lessons here.
Yeah.
So, we didn't want to just have this be a story, we wanted to point some things out, so hopefully there's some takeaways here. One of which is, if you can learn your skill before you start your business, while someone else is paying you to learn that skill, that is a much better way of doing it. So I do fractional CFO services for small businesses. I learned how to be fractional CFO because someone else paid me to be their CFO for a few years, and that's how I learned those skills. I worked for another CPA firm, and in the process learned how to be CPA. It might be tempting to just go and start your own dropshipping company, but like if you could work for a different company that does dropshipping and learn the ropes and learn the things to do and not do, it will save you a bunch of time and energy in the long run. So wherever you can, do that. And then integrity and leadership are inseparable. So it was painful for me to become a whistleblower, to go and have that conversation. I'm really glad that I did. And I've thought about this a lot. Would I have done something different knowing what I know now? Knowing how painful those years were going to be, and I wouldn't have. Because as bad as that option was, the option of not saying anything, the option of not acting with integrity would have been worse. So, 2017, there I was a second time as a tax accountant CPA right after tax day, unemployed. And so I had to decide, did I try and find another job here working for someone else who could fire me, because that happened, or could shut down my company because of something totally unrelated to our company, because that also happened. That didn't seem very appealing to me. So entrepreneurship we define as someone who takes risk, but there's always risks. If you work for someone else, there's risk. If you work for yourself, there's risk. So I decided to launch my own CPA firm. April 2017, no notice, no plan, no clients lined up, no income. And I did a really worked out well for me thing, because my wife at the time was staying at home with our two kids. I was our sole income. I got an SBA loan. And an SBA loan allowed me to be a little bit picky about my clients because I knew I could pay my mortgage, at least for a time, hugely helpful. And my first few clients were friends of mine who had businesses. So your network is really important. Those were my first clients. And I still remember though, vividly, the first client I got, it wasn't someone I actually knew. This was a banker referred someone I'd never heard of before. They had a little business. They had never heard of me. And they paid me real dollars to help them do their stuff. And I remember that so clearly because this was at this point, and it was like 6 months after starting my firm, something like that. This was the point where I said, oh, like maybe this thing will actually work. And you'll have like a lot of negative things that happen and those will stick out to you, but it's really important to pause and remember some of these positive things too. That first client, man, I still remember how good that felt. So, let's see. Starting the firm, that was one chapter. But we really became the firm that we are now, where we're growing and getting national recognition and have this great team, these great clients. We really started the path to becoming that when Emma joined us. So I want her to share her path because it not only shaped how she became a leader and how she shows up today, but it really shaped Jordan CPA Services too.
Okay, I get really nervous speaking, so just bear with me. I'll refer to my notes a little bit, but I'm excited to tell you guys. I did not take the traditional path to entrepreneurship or even accounting at all. I came to the US from El Salvador when I was 4 years old. My mom had immigrated a couple of years before that. She came ahead to, she crossed the border with a group of people and led by a coyote, like so many families do when they're out of options and just, you know, trying to survive. But she came here, she entrusted me to my grandma. I was 2 years old. And she learned the language. She was in a new country. She was trying to save up money to bring me here to be with her. And it was, I don't know, it's just very encouraging. I can't imagine having done that with my babies. But, you know, she figured things out on the spot. She figured out work. She figured out how to navigate the immigration system, which is crazy. And despite what some people might assume, she did learn how to pay taxes when she was here. So also that she could bring me here. When she finally did save up enough money, she paid someone to smuggle me into the country with a group of kids. And I remember seeing her on the tarmac. I hadn't seen her in 2 years. And when you're 4 years old, that's half your life, right? That's a really long time, but I ran straight to her. And that transition, that moving from El Salvador to the US was my first lesson in adaptability. I went from this tiny home in El Salvador where my grandma cared for me all day to a new country, a new language, all new people. I hadn't seen my mom in a couple years. I hadn't seen anybody else. And so it was all new. And I started kindergarten, which I was so lucky the city that we were in had a great ESL program. And so while I was learning all the normal stuff that kindergartners learn, I was also learning English. And it was neat to have that program because the teachers looked like me, they could relate. I felt okay, but I learned how to translate my world, right, at such a young age. And even as a little kid, I figured out how to adjust and how to adapt. And then when I was 13, it happened again. She moved us from Southern California to Northwest Arkansas. And this was before Walmart had blown up and made it cool. So I went from San Fernando Valley to hay bales and small town. I went from a place where there was so much diversity to where I was one of the only few Hispanic kids in my school. I was singled out. It was the first time I felt other. It was the first time I experienced racism. It was really hard. But back then, I had some pretty great teachers. I moved right before my 9th grade, it was not a great timing. But I had great teachers and I thought I wanted to be a teacher. I think that's what I thought I was going to be. I really admired them and I wanted to be a teacher, but because of my immigration status, because I was under temporary protective status as a refugee, I couldn't go to school. It was not an option for me. I could get a work permit, and so I chose a different path, or I had to choose a different path. I built a life. I built a home. I got married at a very young age. Do not recommend. And we're still good. We just had to grow up together, so choose wisely. And then got to work. I did a few jobs. I worked at a bank, a couple other places, and then we had our kids, and I stayed home with them for a little while. Once they went back to school and everything, we needed health insurance. And so I looked for a job, and my first job in accounting was at a branch, Leggett branch in Carthage. I got the job without a degree, but I got it because 1, I'm competent, and 2, because I was bilingual. I speak Spanish, and they needed someone that could speak Spanish and connect with people. So once my foot was in the door, I did all my work. I was done with my work early. I started helping improving processes. I even made them start acknowledging birthdays once a month because I like just parties and confetti and also just making people feel special. So while there, my kids were little and they were part of Art Feeds, which is, they do therapeutic art for children. And I volunteered with them in classrooms, but then also sometimes at art walks. And at one art walk, Andrew and his kids came up to do the craft I was doing, and we talked about him needing someone for a role. And even then, I didn't think I was a good fit for that. I told him, I'm not corporate enough for this kind of role. Not sure you want me. But he kind of courted me. He was like, no, you're the kind of person that I want in this key role, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. For so long, I've been told that me being emotional, being sensitive was a flaw. But what I've learned through lots of therapy, through motherhood and through leadership is that it's not a flaw, it's actually something that I can use if I'm in the right place. So when I joined Andrew, and it took a little bit for me to stop fighting the idea that I belonged there, I found the balance that I had been missing. And so together, we've built a firm that values both excellence and humanness. We've learned that structure is not about control. It's about, it's a gift that you give to your team and to yourself. It's about creating stability so that people can show up and do their best work. So from the beginning, I learned at a young age what adaptability looks like. My mom, the women in my family, they've all had to be industrious, resourceful, creative, and incredibly brave. My grandma sold things at the Mercado there in El Salvador. My mom got into management before I even got to the US while barely speaking English. The cousin I'm the closest to in Northwest Arkansas, she's like a champion for immigrants, and she helps them build businesses and helps them kind of navigate all of that. I just come from a line of women who make something out of nothing, and that's entrepreneurship, even if they don't say that word. That's what they're doing. So what drives me today is the same thing that's driven them. It's making things better for the people that I love and for the people that I serve. So I also want my kids to see that you can create your own success, your own version of success, one that's meaningful, sustainable, and true to who you are. Because at the end of the day, you are your biggest asset. I didn't realize I was becoming an entrepreneur. I was just showing up, adapting, helping, improving, creating things that didn't exist. And that's exactly what entrepreneurship is. But you can't go at it alone. So having someone in your corner, someone who believes in you before you believe in yourself, is really important and changes everything. My husband, Matt, did that for me whenever I was terrified to leave Leggett. The stability there and the insurance, but I felt this pull to join Andrew. I really liked him. And my husband was the one that said, go for it, we'll figure it out. And then Andrew, he saw something in me before I even really could name it for myself. Even though I thought he was super weird at first and I did not want to be his friend, I was like, we can work together because we seem to have the same values, and we want the same vibe, right? So I'm like, we can totally work together. Even if our personalities are so different, having those values alignment, that's been the biggest thing. So a couple takeaways. It was just the two of us at the time. And so our personalities, that was an adjustment for sure. And we had to adapt, but the fact that our values aligned, that's what built a great partnership. And I think from my story, you can see that resourcefulness is a legacy. It's something you can pass on, leave behind, something that people can see. And adaptability is a skill that you should hone, because those two things really make you a better leader. So again, I joined Andrew, and it was just the two of us for a little bit, and then after a couple of years, an opportunity came up.
I was thinking just now, Katie invited us to come and speak, and the other one we heard was 24 talking about their journey, which also had a lot of body blows, right? A lot of challenges, a lot of setbacks. You've heard those already, and this is foreshadowing, by the way, for the next part, where we had this really cool opportunity that was also kind of a setback in disguise. That was also, surprise, an opportunity underneath the setback. And I think one of the things is, as entrepreneurs, as Emma said, adaptability and being able to figure things out. No matter what happens, you're gonna figure things out and land on your feet if you've got the right skill set and the right personality. So, what happened next with us? Jordan CPA Services started in 2017, was growing really well. We were about doubling in size every year. 2020, just before COVID happened, I was connected through kind of this mutual connection with these guys in Chicago. So professional networks, pretty important things. They bring you a lot of opportunities. Even though some of the opportunities blow up, they eventually are sometimes good. That's what happened here. I went up to Chicago, met with these guys, and kind of the premise was they had built from scratch a 200-person tax resolution company. And the thing with tax resolution is you don't really get into tax trouble if you're just an employee working for someone else. In that case, your taxes are withheld, like you're not gonna get too far behind. But you have a business, it's really easy to make a lot of money on paper and not realize it, and not realize that you owe tax, and you should have been paying taxes quarterly, and you have no money, and now you owe the government a bunch of money. That's where like tax resolution happens. So they said, look, these clients that we're helping with tax resolution, they need bookkeeping going forward, they need estimates calculated going forward, they need to not get in the same place again. We're starting up this little business called Finance Pal, and we're gonna funnel clients, 50 clients a month we think we have that need to go into this company. We've got a team of experienced salespeople who will sign them up, get them settled with everything they need. And we've got this team in Cancun that can scale as fast as you want it to, of experienced bookkeepers. And so it sounded like a really good deal. And we did a lot of due diligence, but when we eventually pulled the trigger, we said, yeah, I'll sell most of Jordan CPA Services, because I was the sole owner at the time back then, before Emma came in as my partner.
So you sold these clients.
Sold my client base basically to Finance Pal in exchange for ownership of Finance Pal, partial ownership. And January 1, 2021, we said, hey, we're gonna start this thing up. So we did. And what we discovered was the leads weren't actually coming from the tax resolution company, they were really coming from these very expensive national radio ads we were doing. And the team in Cancun, it was so bad, we had to fire them all and then pay other people to redo all that work. And the salespeople, they didn't actually know the difference between like different kinds of tax returns. They had no idea what they were selling, basically. So they caused a lot of grief and wasted a lot of money. And so by the time we got through that first year, it was pretty apparent, like we're gonna buy them out, or they're gonna buy us out, but we're not gonna keep working together. And the biggest difference, Emma alluded to values earlier, so we couldn't be more opposite in most respects, many respects, but we have a shared set of values. And because of that, like, it always works out. Excuse me. So these partners though, they didn't. They were wanting to build a company really fast and sell it. I was wanting to build a team that I would love to work with for the long term and take really good care of clients. So we were just setting out to do different things, and we didn't really understand that before it was kind of too late. So 2022, we came to the conclusion we were gonna buy out my partners. It took about 6 months. Banking is really challenging. We were told no a number of times before we found a bank to work with. Had to negotiate all the aspects of the deal. Again, it was like 6 months long of a lot of stress and a lot of uncertainty, but we did it. And 3 years ago, November 1, 2022, we bought back our company. And when we did that, it was a very different company than Jordan CPA Services actually was.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know, was that my problem? Yeah, there you go.
So when Andrew bought Finance Pal outright, we suddenly had all of these clients, right? We had been used to as Jordan CPA Services, a smaller thing, and I was in a different role. And so we had to decide who we wanted to be as leaders. We had to decide what we wanted our company to do, get more clear on that. It's one thing to take over something, it's another thing entirely to reshape it into what you want it to be, something that reflects your values. So at that point, we had about 400 clients. Some of them were paying as little as $50 a month. It's ridiculous. We had quality problems, process problems, the team was exhausted, communication problems, and it didn't feel like us. It was very stressful, so we had to get honest. Who do we want to be? Who do we want to serve? What is the kind of firm that we're building? So once we got clear on that, we knew the decision that we had to make, but we had to make them strategically, and it took a long time. We had to raise prices. We had to let go of clients that weren't the right fit. We had to replace roles, redefine them, bring in people with different skill sets. We rebuilt our processes from the inside out. We had to find our voice. We simplified, we aligned, we became more intentional leaders instead of accidentally becoming leaders. The business got a lot smaller in client count. We went from 400 clients to about 175, but it became healthier, more profitable, more sustainable, and way more aligned with who we are. So one thing to take away there is you don't have to grow by getting bigger. You can grow by getting clearer on who you are and what you want to be.
And the more you can clarify your value, the better off you'll be. So Finance Pal literally serve clients of any size, anywhere in the US and any industry. And so we had some clients that were $50,000 a year, and we had some clients that were $10 million a year. As you can imagine, like that's a lot of different services, it's a lot of different things to manage, and it's really hard and inefficient. And so it's tempting, especially when you're newer to the game, to think like, I don't wanna limit myself and limit what I'm going after as a client. That's actually exactly what you wanna do. If you're going after everyone, you're kind of going after no one, which is what Finance Pal did. And so we've narrowed that down a lot, and that's part of what's really helped us. Also, if you want to have sustainable growth and build something for the long term that isn't just like pump up to sell, you really have to get clear about who you're serving, what value you're providing for them. Which brings us to this idea of growing intentionally. So every year we pick a word, we each separately pick a word that's going to be like our word for the year. And I highly recommend this practice, it's actually really cool. My word for this year is flourish, and it comes from two different ideas. There's a book called Flourish, written by a guy who's the father of positive psychology, Martin Seligman is his name. Highly recommend that book, Flourish. And then there's a TV show called The Good Place, which is a wonderful TV show. The guy, Mark Schur, who is the show developer of that, also wrote a book. His book is, I'll read it because it's a funny name. It's How to Be Perfect, the Correct Answer to Every Moral Question. It's a really fun read, and he covers a bunch of different philosophies. And the philosophy that he covers that really resonated with me is Aristotle. And Aristotle has this idea of having a balanced life where like all things are in unison, and he uses the word flourish. And so because of that, I picked flourish as my word for the year. And it's been a really good year for us. It's been a really good word for us for this year, because some of the things that have happened this year is we got to speak at the world's largest CPA conference this summer. Pretty cool. We've been spotlighted by our national body, the American Institute of CPAs, talking about neurodiversity at a national level. We're in the process of recording a continuing education course, again, a national release on that for CPAs. Emma spoke recently at a women's leadership event. We're being interviewed again on the national stage by it's an international software that does project management for accountants. And so they're featuring our firm in that and highlighting us. And we're here today talking to you guys. It has been a year of a lot of opportunities for our firm and a lot of flourishing.
My year starts in September, because that's my birthday, so mine goes from September to August, and my last word was belong. This year, my word is steadfast. Over the past few years, I've chosen to, a word to guide me. And I think I just naturally look over my year when I get close to my birthday, and so that's how I got in the practice of that. But it's been enjoy, comfortable, belong, just something to carry me through the year. And each one has helped me grow into a more genuine, more true version of myself. So steadfast came from noticing a pattern. Whenever life felt chaotic or emotional, what I wanted the most was to just stay rooted in who I am and not let those things shake me from stress or self-doubt. I don't mean steadfast in like a rigid way either, not in a stubborn way. I mean like the way a tree is really well rooted and can bend without breaking. It's grounded, nourished, and centered. So I also this year implemented a mantra, and so my mantra for this year is, with a steady soul, I get to choose how I show up. So whether it's a hard conversation, parenting teenagers, or leading our firm, I want to be able to respond from a grounded place. This word is helping me do that, reminding me to pause, to breathe, to stay anchored in who I am and who I want to be.
So a few lessons we have for you guys for this part. First one is that growth happens by design. It's not accidental. If you're not intentional about growing, then you're probably not going to grow. And you grow as a leader when you grow as a person. And then your company grows when you grow as a leader. So those things all go together. If you want your company to grow, we think you need to grow as a leader. And if you want to grow as a leader, you really have to start by growing as a person.
That last lesson we have listed, a company grows when its leaders grow, is exactly why we built Jordan CPA Services the way that we did, the way that we are building it, on purpose. We knew what it felt like to work in chaotic environments, places that weren't healthy. We know what burnout looks like. And we wanted to build something different, something that's sustainable for all of us. We pay hourly instead of salary, which is way different, and especially in accounting. It's so that no one feels pressured to overwork, and so we don't want them for more hours. We're remote first. We have flex time. We use core hours. We know that people work better when they're trusted. So that's one of the reasons why we do that.
Let me just clarify something because it's really radically different than we pay by the hour. We're the only firm I know of that does this, and the reason is, I mentioned earlier, I had a week where I worked 80 hours. I received 0 overtime for that week, 0 additional compensation. That's the traditional model for CPA firms. Everyone's salary, and you squeeze as many hours out of them as you can, and that's how you're profitable. So we found a pretty radically different way. But as Emma said, we give our people a lot of freedom, but we balance that freedom with guardrails, structure that protects both the quality of our work and also our people. And one thing we've learned is that freedom and flexibility works best when you have clear guardrails. So in closing, we want to talk about what we're doing now. So by this past summer, we realized that we've been in a phase since we bought Finance Pal that we called building the plane as we fly it. If you can think of that analogy. Emma said we went from 400 clients down to 175 clients. I think an important thing we should mention to a group of business-minded people is that our top line revenue stayed exactly the same all 3 of those years. So if you can imagine, we cut about 60% of our client base, keeping our revenue the same. So we're bringing in new clients, raising rates, doing a whole lot of different things. It was a big achievement, and we're really proud of it, but we were able to start saying, as of a few months ago, like, we're not really building the plane as we fly it anymore. Where do we go from here?
So we didn't want to grow for just growth's sake. Like I said, we want to be intentional. We want the kind of growth that doesn't compromise who we are, quality, or anything like that.
So Finance Pal's sister company, that tax resolution company, they had an initiative that they called Going to the Moon, or Going to Mars, actually, I think. And they had like a rocket ship. And we said, we want to achieve something really big. We want to increase the size of our business and achieve all these goals. We want to do it in a way that's us, a way that's healthy. So we're not blasting to the moon on a rocket ship. Our vision is a vine. That's our imagery we're using. And we're calling it Growing to the Moon.
And we're sharing that vision with our team. We've broken it up into 4 phases. It includes goals, we share, and not just profitability goals. It includes like the health of our team and some things and unlocks, rewards. Sometimes that's gonna be extra time off bonuses.
So we think it's simple that when the team wins, we win as a company. And when the company wins, if we share that with our team, it creates a cycle and everyone does better from it. And honestly, we think having this goal and having this initiative gives our people something to run toward, something to motivate them, something to tie us all together.
So I would say if we boil this chapter down, the one that we're in right now, it comes to 2 big lessons for us. Sustainable growth beats explosive growth. And when you actually share where you're heading, the direction, the why behind it, that shared vision turns that work into momentum.
If you are truly an entrepreneur, you are in the minority of the population. Most people don't have the personality, they don't have the skills to do what you do. And you will always underestimate the extent to which that is true until you start running a company. And you realize, gosh, no one is seeing this the way I am. And it's because you are unique, you are a minority. And we wanna give you this message that with that uniqueness, we think comes a responsibility to build a company and to build a company that does good for your community, for your people, for yourselves as well.
So we think that when you're an entrepreneur, it's not just about building a business, it's really about building yourself. So whether you are an entrepreneur and have a business already, or you are looking into doing that, we want to leave you with this question. What kind of entrepreneur do you want to be?
Thank you, guys.
We have enough time, 5 minutes of Q&A. So if you have a question, I will run to you with the mic. So who's first? Okay. Why I didn't wear high heels.
I feel like you said that last time.
I did, but I got high heel boots on.
Okay, first, I just wanted to say really quick, Emma, you did great. I don't know why you were worried about it. You did fantastic. I enjoyed hearing your story, and I think you did great. My question is, what your recommendations are for finding a network of like-minded people and like networking outside of it, because obviously when in college, like we grow in a group of people and things like that, but once you're in the real world and you're actually doing entrepreneurship, what's a good way to kind of do more networking and find more people?
Okay, so Andrew's very good at this. I am a little bit more shy, and I'm not good at small talk. But I would say you want to get good at small talk, and have that conversation. But he's also joined some groups, and I've joined some groups. I would say Thrival's great.
Yeah, so there's a couple kinds of networking I talk about. Thrival that Emma mentioned, that is a mastermind group for other CPA firm owners. It's fantastic, gives us a place to bounce ideas off of, connect. We do get referrals sometimes from other CPAs. And so that's a good one. Another thing I would say is nonprofits. So I made a lot of connections by joining nonprofits, just volunteering, getting involved. Because networking that is for the purpose of networking is awful, and it feels really fake, and everyone feels it. And so, but if you have a nonprofit that you actually care about, and these other people care about, then you have a link to them, and you have real genuine connection. I think it's a lot better. I mean, we're here in large part because Emma and Katie know each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I would say some of the nonprofits he's helped with are just some of it you might not be interested in, but also if you just he was part of the historical society.
historic preservation and
Yes,
Carthage.
in Carthage, so all the old houses, and he could give you a tour. As soon as he makes things up when you're touring through the Phelps house. But he was a part of that, and Rotary Club, some of those that feel maybe sometimes a little corny, but it's just really good to be a part of. Again, I was involved with Art Feed, so I volunteered with the kids, and that's what kind of fed me. One of the things that we do is we ask any business that wants to work with us, what nonprofits they support and that they like, because we think that those are like-minded people, those are the kind of people that we want to work with. So definitely get involved in your community.
And we don't care which nonprofits, just to be clear, we have people very liberal, people very conservative, that have nonprofits they care about on both ends. But if you're someone who doesn't care about nonprofits, we do rarely get that answer. I'm just focused on myself, cool, life's too short, I don't care to help you. Go find a different CPA, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Let's see. So I only know this because your husband's here today. So what's it like being a family of entrepreneurs?
Our kids, I think our kids have had to adapt and understand. I think they're spoiled in some senses. They know they can call us and we'll be there almost any time. Because both of us will be gotta go, kid needs something. So they don't take that for granted sometimes. They do. But it's rough. I would say they see and hear our stress. We do talk about it in front of them. They understand that, Matt gets calls, something's flooded in, an hour away. I think there was one day he had to drive an hour and then come right back.
Hang on, can you announce what your husband does?
Oh, my husband is a co-owner of 24, the gym.
Can you stand up real quick? We just have 24. Stand up real quick.
All
Would that be-
24, this is
Yeah,
good
Thanks for
stuff.
coming out here.
Another small business.
But yeah, I think that pretending that it doesn't exist, and then also reminding each other that sometimes Matt wants to vent, and me as a COO, as an operations person, I'm well, here's what you need, right? I got you. And when I say some stuff, he wants to do the same. And so communicating and telling each other, hey, I just want to vent, don't try and fix it right now, is good. And then remembering that the other person is also dealing with the same thing. So yes, you can say, I don't have time to do this today, or yes, my laundry is backed up, but it's because I've been so busy. so as the other person, right, like we're all, and so just showing grace to each other, I think is really important.
Hang on, Shelby.
Emma, you mentioned healthcare being a hurdle going from a traditional job to an entrepreneurship. What suggestion would you have for other entrepreneurs that wanted to make that jump in regards to healthcare?
So, one of the things that I did was negotiate my wages to help me cover cost of me paying for our own health insurance. So Matt, at the same time, he didn't have health insurance offered at his work either. But it was a different time. It was 2018, 2018. And so a lot of insurance stuff has changed since then. We got the marketplace since then. I know prices are really high still, but there's a couple things you can do. Even for our team, we get insurance through the chamber. I think Andrew knows me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in practice, a lot of people use the Affordable Care Act exchange when they're starting out. But once you get a couple employees, if you're wanting everyone to have insurance, if you're a Missouri business and a member of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, any Chamber of Commerce in the area, you can participate in the Missouri Chamber of Commerce plan, which is often a more affordable option.
And then there's also the kind of entity that you are, like S corporations, owners can add that to their W-2. There's a few things there, but we said we weren't gonna teach you guys taxes. Anything else?
We'll do this because there is class getting ready to start, so if you need to leave for class, please do. But if you want to stay, I'm sure they will answer some questions if you guys want to come up here. And we'll do it that way. That way, no one's late to class.
Yes, ask me questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.